Namaste everyone.
This meeting is being recorded.
Namaste everyone. Welcome to this evening's filter coffee session with author Sonali Raje, live from USA. She works as an associate professor of chemistry at Towson University. She's an alumnus of Indian Institute of Technology, Mumbai, and a US Fulbright scholar. She lives in Maryland with her husband and two kids. She's a self professed chocoholic and a potterhead and finds joy in spending time with her family. Very interesting to have a multifaceted, multidimensional personality today. She has written two books. The first book is The Empress of Indraprastha, Entering Kuruvansh. It is a bestseller, and the subject for today is the review and discussion on her second book, Empress of Indraprastha, Part 2, Building an Empire. Welcome, ma'am, for to the
Thank
Veranda Club, and thank you for honoring us with your presence for a book discussion today.
The privileges and pleasure is all mine. Thank you.
Likewise, likewise. So, how did you choose this subject? This subject, ma'am? What interested you, and how did you choose this subject? And why did you choose to write about Draupadi?
So I've always been interested in the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. The epics have always been a topic of interest. There are so many versions of the epics.
Hmm,
There's
hmm, hmm,
the original Bori version,
hmm,
and like there are so many other iterations. I mean, there's also like so many TV serials that we see.
hmm,
So I've always had an interest in the epics from the beginning, and
hmm,
I've read about quite a lot of them. And Draupadi has been a very fascinating character for me, primarily because of the way her marriage worked out to be and all the things that happened to her. And because I have read so many versions, I just there are many different versions which express how she was as a person, and I just found a little bit of things that were lacking, I would say, in some sense, that I did not see in any of the other versions that were written. Not just the I mean, not the original Mahabharata, obviously, but even recent authors who have taken to writing about her, and that's been going on for like almost decades now. So I just wanted to bring a slightly different version of Draupadi's story to life, more focusing on her as somebody who was for a champion for women's empowerment, including her family, her maternal home.
hmm. Very
So
interesting.
that's how this came about.
Hmm. And how I this is for the younger audience. I want to ask you this question because that will not might that will inspire the younger audience. What was it like? You grew up reading these uh, legends, stories, and were there storytelling sessions by your parents, grandparents that helped you shape your outlook? How did it help?
Definitely. Yes, definitely. So, my family is fairly religious, and we have had a Krishna photo in our family for almost like 95 years now. And we've always like worshipped that. My grandmother started that, and we even today, like we every Janmashtami, it's one of our prime deities. We have grown up listening to the stories of the Mahabharata. When I have not studied Sanskrit. I have not studied Sanskrit, but Rajagopalachari's version of the Mahabharata, see Rajagopalachari's
Yes,
version,
yes.
is something that is fairly comprehensible. It's very like the chapters are short, and I think it's a fairly decent and easy read. Decent in terms, I mean, it's a very good read in terms of what it portrays of the original content, but it's quickly readable for children. And there are several authors even now who are sticking strictly to the Bori version and who are bringing interesting stories of the Puranas and the Mahabharata. So yes, I have always like been fascinated with our ancient history and ancient epics, and it was definitely something that I grew up with. So I think the earlier you introduce children to these concepts of our ancient history, the more they can learn about it and the more they can contribute to it in terms of their own interpretations.
Absolutely. Very nice and inspiring. And there is a lot of, nowadays there is a lot of debate, especially the ones who try to say that classify our scriptures, religious stories, legends. You can call it epic, history, or mythology, or legend. In your view, how do you see Mahabharata?
So that's a yeah, it's a very hotly, like, there are a lot of discussions on this question, and I view the Mahabharata as our history.
Hmm.
There is no reason to not suppose that those events could not have happened,
Correct.
right? War is something that is, even if it happens even today. One of the aspects of the war, during the Jayadrath Vad,
Hmm.
there's this concept where Krishna covers the sun with his Sudarshan Chakra.
Hmm.
There is evidence that there was a total solar eclipse around that time. So these incidents can be verified.
Hmm.
I'm a scientist by profession, and I tend to go by like the evidence that you see. So there is plenty of evidence that a lot of these things could have happened.
Hmm.
Has everything happened? I would be, being from a scientific background, I would say keep an open mind. There are a lot of things that have happened, that could have happened. Um, but at the same time, there are several fantastic stories that have probably been added to the original epic. So when people read things, they like something, they want to, depending on the times, depending on the need of times, people might be interested in changing some parts of the original story. That does not mean that the whole thing did not happen.
Correct.
Many of the things that are easily possible, I mean, even today women are getting assaulted. The whole story of the Mahabharata, I would say, is something that is meant to provide guidance to mankind as to how best to live your life.
Correct.
So I think it's history. Obviously people can have different opinions. Most of it, I think, could have easily happened, and undoubtedly there are some mythical aspects which have been added later on, for sure.
True. In fact, there have been evidences of finding a chariot in Kurukshetra site. As they say, you can distort history, but you cannot ignore geography and archaeology. So we have the archaeological
Yes.
and geographical evidence. And I think,
Yes.
to quote Nilesh Oak, I think there is
Even the
astronomical.
astronomical evidence, like for
Yes.
the, yes,
Yes. So there is a lot of
exactly.
corroboration of things which help us to decipher that this is indeed history, our history. Proud, we are proud of that. And
Yes,
nowadays there are,
absolutely.
yes, nowadays there are several authors who and writers, scholars who tend to slightly take a creative leap, try to meander here and there, and then write the story. In your view, do you think that this approach kind of dilutes the sanctity, or kind of digresses from the core of the subject? Do you think we are digressing and diluting it?
So I would say no. So here's the thing. The original epic, I think, is so powerful that no matter what anybody writes about it, I mean, this is again my opinion, this is my belief. I think the epics have withstood the test of time over and over again. They were there before you and I were born, and they will be there after all of us go away, right? So there is no, the epics are too powerful for anybody to weaken them. They have, and it's proof that they have stood the test of time. Even today, people, like, there are so many serials about the epics which go on and on, no matter what masala anybody puts. The thing is, several authors can offer their creativity. I think as long as the main gist of the epic is not destroyed, that there is, good will always triumph over evil. I think authors are allowed to take some creative liberty. This is a dichotomy here, because see, at some point you want to put in your own author creativity, because if you just have to read the original epic, I would say read the Bori version. The Bhandarkar Oriental Research Institute Critical Edition is considered the most authentic version of the Mahabharata. There are several incidents in there which have been distorted, like there's the Draupadi Swayamvar incident or the the post Rajsuya Yagya incident, which has been distorted in later versions. But the Bori CE version is the most authentic version. And Rajagopalachari's version also follows that same pattern. There are creative authors now who have taken the liberty to like change a little bit of the aspects of the epic. Here's the thing, for an author, if you write the exact same thing that has been done previously, then it makes no sense because you might as well read the original epic, right?
Correct.
And the Borisi version is available online, it's free.
Hmm.
So my take on this is, if I want somebody to read my story, then I have to put in the effort to write something different to make sure that people find it worth their time and money. Otherwise, why would anybody even bother to read it? Do you see what I'm saying? So, like, writers can certainly take creative liberty, but I think it is important for writers to state that this was the original and that they have taken some creative liberty in writing some fictional or additional imaginary tales that they feel were important for their storyline.
I agree. In the dharmic framework, a little bit of creativity is allowed, and I think given the open platform approach of Hindu Dharma, Sanatan Dharma, I think that is most welcome because ours has always been a progressive society and ideology.
It's very interesting you said that because I completely believe in that philosophy. Like a lot of people feel like Hinduism is regressive. I
Hmm.
think it's one of the most progressive societies
Yes,
from the ancient times. A lot of
yes,
things that we think have come from the West have not
yes,
really come from the West. They have always been part of our culture.
absolutely, absolutely. In the part two, you have in the part two, that is building an empire, you have shown Draupadi soothing her maid by quoting, referring to Duryodhan's and Dhritarashtra's blindness. The original Vyas version is slightly different. Why have you chosen to depict her in this light? And do you think that this will kind of weaken her powerful character? Is it likely?
Um, so, so yes, the original Bori version has. There are two things. In the original Bori version, in her Swayamvar, Karn fails to shoot the eye of the fish.
Hmm.
He participates. She does not prevent him from participating. He participates, but he fails by a hair's breadth. Okay, that's what the original version. Even Rajaji's version has that same text. I have seen this version, and in the Rajasuya incident that you mentioned, she was not even present at that spot. When
Hmm.
Duryodhan
Hmm.
falls in the Maya Sabha, Draupadi was not even originally present.
Hmm. Hmm.
Now,
Hmm.
there have been other versions where it has been shown that she calls Duryodhan Andhe ka putra andha, that famous line that Draupadi
Hmm.
is that is attributed to Draupadi. She just calls him blind. There have been other regional versions which show that her maid laughs at him and she calls Duryodhan blind, and Draupadi is not really involved in it. So what I have done is I have taken those two versions and I have put them together to make her, rather than weakening her character, I have tried to make her slightly more powerful in my
Yes,
eyes than the original version.
yes,
And here's why.
yes, I could make that out. Correct.
Yeah, here's why. Because see, it's one thing to be a powerful woman and stand up for yourself. But even nowadays, like sometimes I've seen people, when they talk to their maid servants or people who can't really do anything for them in life, they will be extremely rude to them.
Yes.
Like they're so almost inhuman treatment, like any amount of work or whatever. Like that was something I wanted to highlight by showing her it's not just about standing up for yourself, it's also about standing up for someone who is weaker than you.
Weaker than you.
That makes you more powerful. It doesn't, in fact, I don't think it weakens her character at all. It shows her in a more positive light
Hmm.
because she is not only aware that, okay, this is not right, even though he is her brother in law, she is actually standing up for her maid by telling her, you did your job, you did the right thing, but it's metaphorical. She doesn't call him blind. Look, I think if somebody was picking on somebody's physical handicap, that would make them really nasty. So I don't
Mean.
really like that version of Draupadi at all. It's
Correct.
very
Correct.
mean, right? It's a very mean
Correct.
thing to say.
Correct.
Andhe ka putra andha is not something that any soft-hearted person would say.
Mm.
So I just wanted to make this metaphorical reference that yes, Duryodhan is not able to see that you are trying to help him. And that's where the word blind comes in, where his father is also like very, my son, everything, my son, all sins of my son are forgiven. And he is also very arrogant when he dismisses that maid, like even when she's trying to help him. And that's why I have juxtaposed, if you will, to those two versions of the epic and tried to show her in a more positive light, in a more powerful light, where she is standing up for somebody else who cannot stand up for themselves in that moment.
So this answers my previous question on the creative leap that authors take. So this indeed you have given a positive aspect by highlighting the what real character of a strong person. I mean, a strong character should be, ideally should be. So in
Yes,
a way, I think this is the approach. I think we all need to adapt, and take the positives and amplify the overall goodness, which is much lacking in today's scenario. Very well written, ma'am.
scenario, yeah.
Ma'am, the
Thank you.
other question is, my favorite quote for a very long time. I had as my WhatsApp status: "Dharmo rakshati rakshitaha." Dharma will protect
Okay.
only if Dharma is protected. Now, Krishna is
Yes.
considered as God. Now, your blurb
Mhm.
suggests that uh, Krishna is responsible for the burning of the Khandava forest. Now, what is the premise underlying this portrayal?
So, Krishna, as you said, is considered God.
Hmm,
It is God's, the whole Mahabharata was orchestrated by Krishna,
hmm,
right?
hmm,
It's in his hands, the whole wheel of time, the circle of
hmm,
life as it happens. What I have tried to show is she, I've tried to show Draupadi as more human and less of a goddess, and she's asking Krishna, like, why did you burn the Khandva forest? Just because Agni wanted to get, and Agni wanted to consume the forest, but there were several innocent creatures who were burned in that. It happens in real life too. Like when there's a forest fire, a lot of innocent creatures are burned. But the point is, after that destruction, there is room for creation because something original that was only conducive to the living habitat of one group of people. Krishna destroyed that, but then they made it into a verdant green land, which not only helped the Pandavas, but it also helped the other natives of that forest because they got access to more resources, and everybody benefited from it. We have this quote called Vasudhaivam Kutumbakam, right? So the concept of that, and I'm not trying to be political in any way here, but I'm just trying to show that the original, the Sanatan concept that we have, what Krishna did. See, Krishna is considered the avatar of Vishnu. His role is to preserve the earth and all its inhabitants,
hmm,
right?
hmm,
That's what our epics, that's what our Puranas say. So he is fulfilling his job. He's doing his duty by making sure that whatever is getting destroyed, he creates this whole environment for everyone to thrive. So the burning of the Khandva is, while it is real, it's also for the good of mankind, of all races, not just of the Pandavas, but of all the inhabitants in and around that area. So yes, he is doing his duty as a god by continuing the cycle of destruction and recreation, and preserving the sanctity of that land. That's what I've tried to show in that aspect.
I am but reminded of yesterday. I had been to the vaccine war movie, and there is
Okay.
a scene where the one of the lab uh, scientists, played by Saptami Gowda, she's trying to separate the uh, coronavirus, live, trying to extract the live coronavirus, and she comes out. She's very stressed, and she has idol of Nataraja, and she keeps swapping like this and says, creation, destruction, creation. So it's basically, I'm able to relate to that. So basically, for the larger
I
good,
have to see that movie. I haven't seen it. I've definitely I want to watch that movie for
it's a
sure.
very nice, movie, very well made and very tightly made. Vivek Agnihotri deserves all the applause. We're digressing. Sorry. So
Yeah.
in your one thing in second, I mean, unique in your second book is that you have dwelt with the role of the other wives of the Pandavas in shaping the Kandava Prastha. So how did this
Yeah.
idea also come about? What inspired you to take this up?
So we want to empower our girls, right? It's important to empower all the women. If a girl's family educates her, empowers her, it's good for the society, because strong women give birth to strong daughters. And by encouraging your girl child, you are effectively helping society and the world as a whole to become a better place. We have not heard much about the wives of the other Pandavas. There are some versions which show that Draupadi didn't allow them any room in Indraprasth, and they were relegated to their respective maternal homes. The original Vyas version does not say that. In fact, she allows them. They live in Indraprasth itself, and I've tried to like briefly touch upon that in book one, because if the brothers have to they have to visit their other wives at some point also. If they're constantly going away for a long period of time, who is going to take care of the empire? They have a job to do.
Mm,
She has a job to do. She's the queen of the land. So the important thing was to bring all the talents together. If you have to build a nation or even a company, you need different people with different strengths.
mm,
No matter how strong one person is, they can't have all the knowledge, all the required talent in them. One of the key aspects of a leader is not just to be good, but to lead in terms of recognizing what talent other people have and to bring that forward so that everyone collectively can progress. There's a difference between being a boss and being a leader. Anybody can be a boss, right? If you just boss people around, and especially for people who are weaker than you, who can't
mm,
defend themselves, you are a boss. But a true leader will lift everybody along with them for the greater good, for putting the priority should be to build the country, to build the empire in her
mm,
case. So she was able to identify the talents of all these different women who were in the house, and she was able to draw on their strengths. And I just wanted to make sure that I had an equal mix of things that are considered feminine talents, like the ability to make food or dance. And the reason I put this forth is because as a science professor, I see a lot of kids even in college being pressurized to go into engineering, math. Their parents are putting pressure on them, like study this, do this, do that, then you will have a good job, and all kinds of things. But I think it's important to recognize that the arts also have their place in society. I think and ancient India had this in the Gurukul. They were taught all subjects. It wasn't just focus on one and go ahead. Everybody was taught everything. So how different personalities and how different talents can be brought forth in jumpstarting the economy,
mm.
that was what I wanted to show by pulling all the women folk together, because we have heard a lot of the stories of the brothers. So they are shown powerful, they are waging wars, the conquest is important, but at the same time, when you conquer something, the war always has a cost.
Mm,
There will be a refugee crisis, there will be, you are spending so much money, but at the same time you want to be able to build your economy. Unless you have a strong economy, there
mm.
is no strong nation. So I have shown her in part 2 as the builder who is aware of this concept of making sure that Indraprasth succeeds. And she brings together all these women because they are the ones who she is interacting with. The women are interacting with her. And that's why they combine their talents to continue the growth of Indraprasth as a nation, as a family.
Fantastic one. So now both your books are part one, part two continuation. And both I mean, the protagonist is predominantly a uh, female. Then Draupadi. The subject here is Draupadi. So how do you view the role of how was the concept of feminism in ancient India? So today we have a lot of debate around feminism and women empowerment and
Yes,
all. So how was it in
yes.
ancient India?
So I think this is a tricky question because I think that eons can change, but the ethos doesn't change. So I think there were a lot of powerful women in ancient India. We have Gargi Maitreyi, that
Mm,
there is, I
mm,
can like go on and on because they were also educated. I don't think that women were always constantly subjugated. In India, we had extremely powerful women, but at the same time, we had women who might not have been as bold as their counterparts. Because Gandhari, she's powerful, but she chose to blindfold herself. Is that, I'm not sure if that's being subjugated or if she chose to show her
mm,
solidarity with her husband. That's another way of looking at it. So I think women were very powerful, even in ancient India. There could be some women who were not as powerful as the women of those times, which is what it is even now. We have several powerful leaders, like all the women of Israel, if you see, and I'm just like completely, just enamored and total respect for what they have accomplished. So we have several powerful women even now. Even today, there are women who are not as powerful as others. So times have changed, but things might not always. It's hard to say that those women were only powerful or these women are the only ones who are powerful. So feminism is a very shaky concept. My idea of feminism is that you stand up for yourself for sure. You also empower other women around you, like I have shown with Draupadi's example.
mm.
But at the same time, it shouldn't mean that you're demeaning men, because I think men and women have their individual roles in society. If you talk about women's equality, right? Yes, in terms of intelligence, in terms of ability, women are equal. But if you look at physical strength, for instance, that is something which is there is evidence that it is not the same. So equality, you can't have a blanket statement that everything is equal. They are equally powerful, they're equally capable, they're equally responsible. I don't want my idea of feminism involves keeping that aspect in mind. Yes, equality exists, but you don't have to demean somebody to pull
Correct.
yourself up, right? You don't men are less, women are more. It's not like that. Everybody is the same, and the most important aspect is to be able to lift people who are not able to lift themselves
Correct.
and
Very,
use strong role models. You can always, yeah.
very
That's the
balanced
idea
and
of using
very.
strong women.
It's indeed very inspiring. Very balanced approach to uh, the the way nature has endowed us. So it's a very nice way of put it, ma'am. No, see, Mahabharata has a plethora of events, stories, microcosms, macrocosms. So much of takeaways are there in the Mahabharata. So there is not a single subject they say, and I feel it not dwelt in the Mahabharata. So in today's context, how do you relate to the concepts of Mahabharata? I think it is more relevant today than before. What is your opinion, ma'am?
I completely agree. I completely agree that it's a timeless epic,
Hmm.
and it has withstood the test of time because of its constant relevance in society.
Hmm. Hmm.
There are several lessons you can take in every discipline. There are management lessons.
Yes.
There are lessons in behavior. You know how to strategize, how to negotiate. If you
Military.
read the epics, if you spend the epics, you will spend a lifetime and you will not get all the ideas that have been put forth. It's for me, the Mahabharata is a life lesson. It's how you're supposed to live your life to the best of your ability. You don't have to, like, in dharma artha kama moksha, our concept of life
Hmm.
involves everything. You don't have to like starve yourself, or you don't have to deprive yourself of anything in order to be successful in life. Our concept of enjoying life allows for your growth, personal growth, as well as the growth of society and the environment around you. Mahabharata offers these lessons. They are timeless lessons that wherever women are respected, there will be progress, there will be peace, and there
Correct.
will be wealth. Even Gandhari herself says that to her son, Yato dharmas tato jayaha. Wherever there is dharma, there will be victory. When she blesses Duryodhan for the war, that's what she doesn't tell him Vijay Bhava. She says, wherever there is dharma, there is Krishna. Wherever there is Krishna, there will be victory. Yato dharmas tato jayaha. That's her line in the Mahabharata. So, this Mahabharata is extremely relevant even in today's times. It tells you, like the Dut Krida episode, the simple concept of gambling, how you should be very mindful in interpreting what your duty is. Just because somebody is telling you, like, okay, you don't gamble your wealth away, respect women. There are so many management strategies which even current managers are using from the Mahabharata as their guide. And I think it's an extremely relevant epic. It's time immemorial, so there are a lot of lessons to be learned from the Mahabharata from a young age. Like, for children, I will say, I'll give you a short example. For children, Arjun is focused on archery, right? When
Hmm.
Dronacharya asks him to shoot the eye of the bird,
Hmm. Hmm.
he says, I can only see the eye of the bird. So for a small child to be able to understand that as you are progressing in your education, the necessity to focus on something, especially in today's day and age where we have so many devices which offer a source of distraction for
Distraction.
everything. And there are so many mental illnesses because of that also. So all of our ancient epics, all of our ancient sciences, meditation is now being considered as something that the West is also using, but for us it's always been there. Our culture has always shown meditation to be a soothing tool for the brain, and there are scientific studies on this. I'm not just quoting something.
Correct.
Meditation has been shown to be
Yes.
effectively reducing stress. So all of our ancient epics, not just the Mahabharata, a lot of our Puranas have a lot of life lessons to give, which we can implement today. And for sure, the Mahabharata, like I've just given you this example of for a child and for adults, which you can use in today's society.
Wonderful.
Does that answer your question, sir?
Oh, wonderful, ma'am. In fact, I was just thinking, why not we have a series of maybe, I mean, I'm not second guessing your work, but management lessons from Mahabharata can be a very beautiful subject in today's context. In fact, it should be an academic matter, I feel, to train and make
Absolutely.
more dharmic individuals deal with predicaments and intricate situations. I think it is much necessary. My next
I
question,
think
ma'am.
there is one book yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
No, 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 no. Please go ahead.
No, I think there is one book. I'm not sure. I will go back and look. There is already something that's been written about using the lessons of the Mahabharata, and Chanakya Niti is obviously there. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a great idea if we could have some of the lessons from the epics to be shown how
Yes.
they are relevant in times.
Mm. Ma'am, my next question to you is for inspiring young authors. Uh, how did your writing journey start? What inspired you to start writing? How was your initiation into writing?
So, like I said to you before, I have always been an admirer of the epics. There were some aspects of and one of the aspects of Draupadi's personality, which was either uh, she was insulting Karn in her Swayamvar, or she was insulting Duryodhan. That's one aspect that several writers have taken up, or they have taken the Vyas version, which and stayed true to the Vyas version, which shows that Karn missed by a hair's breadth, or Draupadi was not present in the Swayamvar at that point of time. To me, either of those approaches, like if you show her as not insulting Karn, which is a good thing, I'm not saying that she should have insulted Karn, but it shows a softer side of her, which was, yes, she was willing to accept whoever won her Swayamvar, and she was declared a Virya Shulka, like a prize to
Mm-hmm.
be won by the best archer in the land, right? That was the original concept of the in the original Vyas version. A Virya Shulka was, she was, whoever won her was able to marry her, and she did not have any autonomy in that decision. So I wanted to change that slightly to fit the modern times, because we do give girls a lot of freedom. Girls had freedom in those times also. The concept of swayamvar, they were allowed to choose their king,
Yes.
right? Kshatriya women, the whole concept idea of swayamvar was, I can decide who I want to marry. So I wanted to keep that aspect. I wanted to allow her to have the authority of having the ability to choose who she wanted to marry. And I had so I just, like I said to you before, I wanted to merge those two concepts, like take a little bit of the Vyas version, take the versions which have her rejecting Karn, but I wanted to give a reason for why she rejects Karn, not just, okay, you're a Sutputra, I don't want to marry you. Sutas were a Varna. I have used the concept of why, so they were a slightly lower Varna than Kshatriyas, but they were still very well respected. So it wasn't like, they were disgusting people or anything. It was not like that. But I have, in my first book, I've shown her as deciding that I don't want to marry this person, and I've given a reason why, because of Karn's role in the abduction of Bhanumati, Duryodhan's wife. So she wanted to make sure that she went into a family, or she wanted to marry somebody who would respect women, because that's how her family had brought her up as. And that's why, like, I chose to write, because I saw these two different versions, and I wanted to create a blend, a more balanced perspective of Draupadi, where she's shown as being powerful, and not just completely away from the concept of the Rajasuya Yagya Duryodhana incident also, and not just overly critical or overly mean by calling somebody mean, by calling Duryodhan blind. So this marriage of the two ideas was what I wanted to put forth, and that's how I started writing. That's the reason I started writing this book, of showing women's empowerment, of showing a more balanced perspective of Draupadi.
Fantastic. The way you have answered, you brought out one beautiful concept of how truly empowered society we have been by the concept of Swayamvar. Although we know it, but we just take it for granted. So we have been a truly empowered society, far ahead of its times compared to the world at that era.
Yes.
I can't imagine what a evolved civilization we have been for all eternity. Ma'am,
Yes,
the
absolutely.
other question is, you have been, I mean, from your bio, I come to know that you have been exceptionally well in academics, and you balance your family as well, and your work. I mean, working in the States means a lot of, I mean, time commitment. How do you balance your time, work-life balance? Because
So,
writing obviously needs a lot of research, and from the interaction I can make out there is a lot of research that has gone into your work. Both these books are very very lucid reads, but they are a treasure trove for readers who just want to absorb. I mean, it's a very concise way of uh, absorbing the epics. So how do you find time, ma'am?
thank you. Yes, thank you for saying that it's a treasure trove, for finding the nuggets of the epic that I have found most important. And now, when you asked about like how you find time, um, I think I read a quote once, some few years back. If something is important to you, you'll find a way. Otherwise, you'll find an excuse. So that quote stuck with me, because it's like, if and I've tried to look at analyze myself, like how I behave in everyday life. Like, if it I know like this is my priority, I will make sure I get it done. Some things like, oh, time nahi hai, isko phone karne ko time nahi hai, isko phone karne ko time nahi hai. At that time it becomes a less of a priority. Eventually you end up calling that person or not, but all of us know that we have 24 hours. That's time is a unifying factor, whether it's a beggar or a king. All of us have the same amount of time, and none of us know when we will be asked to leave this planet. So it's important to prioritize what you need to do. For me, the way I did it was, I used to wake up early, because I knew writing was going to take time. And I had luckily read the scriptures over several years, but the Bori edition is available online. You can get, you'll have to translate from Sanskrit to English. So a little bit of quite a bit is lost in translation, but you have so many other epics that you can pick from that it's easy to understand what it becomes relatively easy to understand what the original is also trying to say. So I used to wake up early and I used to prioritize some time of the day in the morning itself I'm going to write. And then I have to start making dabba, like the routine that
Daily
everybody has
chores
to follow.
routine. Huh?
Exactly. Daily chores, getting the kids ready, getting them out of the house, getting myself out of the house. So all that. So I would prioritize writing. Once that is done, I don't have any choice with my other tasks. That I have to do. I have to go to work. My kids have to go to school. So khana banana, all that is obviously there. That will get done. If I put that first, then this will suffer. So I tried to do that. COVID helped in some ways that I didn't have to commute because I had a long commute. So that saved commuting time. So I used that to write. I didn't watch TV. I was like, okay, I don't want to know what's going on. I want to make sure that I get this part done. So I just found the time to do it. And the goal was not to publish. I just wanted to write for myself because I wanted to write this story. But then my daughter and my friends encouraged me, at least send this out and let's see what happens. So for me, it was like, if I send it out and if it gets rejected, I'll be back to square one. But I want to do my part, send it out to publishers. If it gets accepted, fine. If not, that's also fine. But the whole concept of the Bhagavad Gita, the
That's what I
Karmanyavadikarastha,
was
let
about
me
to
do my
say.
right. Let me do my duty. Whatever happens, the fruits are not in my hands. Let me send it out. If it works, it works. If not, that's fine too. So that's how this whole writing and prioritizing and stuff came about.
The true essence of a karmachari, ma'am. I mean, I was just about to say, just carry on with your work and let
Yeah.
things come. So it's a very, very, very nice, and I'm very happy to understand how you put you good use the lockdown period and bring out these fabulous works. And if I may ask, what is your next book about? Just maybe if, uh, outline of it or the theme.
Outline of it. Yeah. So the all of us know what's going to happen next. Like there is the Dut Sabha incident and there's the Vastraharan incident. So I definitely am going to bring forth those aspects. But at the same time, I want to continue in this vein of her being a powerful character and show how she adapts to the situation, how she even during the Vastraharan, I want to show her not as a victim, but as a force of power, as a force of Shakti, which is our divine feminine, because our Sanatan Dharma has always empowered women, have always shown women as an incarnation of the goddess, right? So I want to definitely portray her as a powerful person, and I want to show her growth in the bad phase of her life. So I've shown her when your life is going well, when you're in the mode of ascension, she's shown as how she can incorporate everyone and rise. At the same time, life offers you bad times. How to keep your mental balance in those bad times and do the best you can in those times, in the hard times of your life. That's my focus in the upcoming books.
Fantastic, fantastic. So when do we see your third book?
So it's one book per year.
Okay,
That's my contract.
pace.
So
Okay,
2024 for sure. Yeah, for sure.
okay, fantastic, ma'am. And see, one final question before we sign off for this in this interaction is that India is probably one of the youngest countries in the world. The median age is 28.2, and probably Africa is younger than us. But from the subject that we are discussing and from the dharmic nature that we are all following, what is that one lesson, one takeaway that you have for youth of India today from Mahabharata?
So around from Mahabharata.
Your
Um,
understanding.
so, so for me, one of the biggest lessons is the concept of karmanyavadikaraste, which you have to do your part. Whatever happens, the fruits are not in your hands. तुमको काम करना है, सबको काम करना है. It's important to work hard, but it's also important to work smart. And the most important lesson I would say that I have found uh, in this epic is the importance of time. The timeliness of your actions is very critical, because, as I said earlier, time is a unifying force. It's across civilizations, it's across social status. So to be able to use time effectively without getting distracted and without focusing too much into the future or living in the past, use the past, learn the lessons from the past, and implement those lessons in your current life so that your future will be better. I think that is the single most important lesson that I have taken from the epic. And I would say that is the single most important lesson that I think will be beneficial. It's important to learn from the past, but it's important not to dwell in the past. Yes, we have a glorious heritage, but we have to use all the things that we have learned, implement them now so that the future will be better.
Wonderful. For me, I have thoroughly enjoyed reading your books, but from this 45 minutes or so, the two takeaways for me is uh, time and action. Time is a great leveler. From you, I have learned this today. Probably I have to re-emphasize these two things for myself. Is time is a leveler, as you rightly point out, and action is very very important. Gati, speed, in the right direction. In the
Yes.
right direction, obviously. Otherwise, there will be accidents. So, in the right direction is very very important. It's been very, very nice interacting with you, ma'am, this evening. And I look forward for more such interactions with you. And you've always been attending all our Filter Coffee programs. And we appreciate and thank you for your support extended to the Veranda Club. As always, we look forward for future interactions, ma'am.
Thank you. It's been, like I said before, the pleasure and privilege is mine. Thank you so
Likewise,
much.
ma'am. Likewise. Thank you so much. Jai Shri Krishna. Vande
Jai
Mataram.
Shri Krishna. Vande Mataram. Thank you.
Thank you.